Okay, now let's go look at question F. Question F says, using economic analysis and based on the evidence provided, discuss whether you agree with the view that globalization is reversible. Okay, so 10 is 7 plus 3. Okay, maybe before we start, this is a problem, right? We need to figure out what reversible means. But before that, let's just define the globalization first. So globalization is the increased integration of economies around the world through the movement of goods and services, through movement of goods and services, capital and labor across international borders. Okay, so I mentioned to you, right, that actually for globalization, you need to make sure you try and talk about the three facets. So the three facets are, firstly, movement of goods and services, trade, this is trade, capital or FDI, yeah, and labor. Three features of globalization. So if globalization is the increased integration of these three things, and you want to argue that it can be reversed, then what you're trying to argue is that you're trying to decrease the flow of trade. This is goods and services. You're trying to decrease the flow of FDI, and you're going to try to decrease the flow of labor. Yeah. Okay. The extract doesn't have any evidence of number 3, so my answer also won't have. So I'm going to focus the answer solely on number 1 and number 2. Okay, so we start with the requirement 1. We start with the first side first. Yeah, that's reversible. So maybe let's call it a thesis that is reversible. Okay, so I'm going to argue that it's reversible, meaning I'm going to say that there's a decrease in x minus m. Yeah. Okay, so let's quote some evidence first. So if you look at the case extract, it says that the ratio of, let me just put it in red, the ratio of global trade in goods to GDP, it rose to 20% to just under 52%, right, from 1970 to 2008. But since the crisis, they said that trade is no longer as dynamic and the ratio has fallen to just under 45%. Moreover, multinational companies here, cross-border investments fell by 15% in 2016. So we can quote these data here, right? So we can say, in the extract, it says that the global trade, extract 4, the global trade to GDP, it fell from 52% to 45%. So that's the first one. And then cross-border investments, so FDI also fell by 15%, in 2016. Okay, so it shows that there's some degree of reversing happening, but we need to unpack the reason why. So one of the reasons could be a rise in rationale, could be a rise in protectionism, could be a rise in protectionism between countries. Yeah. Okay, so then we're going to draw maybe we can say that this is protectionism especially between the major trading partners, two major economies, which is the US and China. Okay, so we're going to unpack this. So I want to explain firstly the fall in global trade first, yeah. So let's just draw the tariff diagram again. So here, this is PW, sorry, it's not PW, this is SW, this is SW plus T, PW plus T, QE, PE. Okay, so initially you're importing Q1, Q4, right? So domestic production is until Q1, consumption is until Q4. So initially you're consuming Q1, Q4 worth of imports. Now everybody is slapping tariffs on each other. So it raises the price to PW plus T. And that's why now the quantity imported is now Q2, Q3, yeah? So with tariffs, the quantity of imports will decrease, right? And there will be an also corresponding, sorry, it's very kind of illegible. So corresponding increase in domestic production, which is actually what they said in the extract also, yeah, increase in domestic production. So you have initial imports is Q1, Q4, and then finally you only import Q2, Q3. And so then this will explain why that global trade has fallen, because there's a rise in protectionism. Trade has fallen. This will support the argument that yeah, it is reversible if everybody keeps doing this. Yeah, so that's one. Yeah, so beyond that, I can also explain how this FTA thing, this protectionism thing can also explain why FDI flows have slowed, right? Because if you invest in a country and that country annex protection and other trading partners enact protectionism on that country, firstly you won't be able to obtain your imports very cheaply, right? Because every time you import, some other guy, you have a tariff on some other guy, and when you want to send the export out, some other guy has a tariff on you. So this would also discourage the foreign direct investment, yeah. So we can say maybe from protectionism, you can say that at the same time, imposition of tariffs may also cause foreign firms to keep their production domestically, yeah. Also cause foreign firms to keep production in the home country. The reason is because if these firms produce goods and services overseas, they will have to pay tariffs. To import any FOPs from the home country, and also they have to pay a tariff if they export it from the foreign location. So then this would again discourage firms from locating their operations overseas, yeah. So we got a decrease in FDI, which is another facet of globalization, yeah. Okay, there's actually also one more. They did mention something about this, that automation is also reducing the labor needed for production, yeah. And as a result, right, slowly what you see is that many countries developing countries are also losing their comparative advantage because automation can actually lower the cost of production so significantly. Yeah, so you can say, maybe let's have another point for this. I'll write it in blue here. So you can say that there's also the increase in the use of automation that is lowering the cost of production for maybe labor intensive products. So developing countries who used to have a CA in this are now losing their CA. Countries which used to have a CA in these products can no longer produce these products with a lower opportunity cost compared to developed countries who engage in automation, and which developing countries which use a CA in these products can no longer produce these goods at a lower opportunity cost, compared to developed countries that adopt automation. Yeah, so this is the thesis. Okay, so just to recap, so what we're doing, we are just trying to give reasons why there could be a decrease in trade, yeah, why there could be a decrease in trade, or why there could be a decrease in FDI, to argue that it's reversible. Okay, so then in the counter argument, then we would say actually it is not reversible because look what's happening. There is more trade, or there are signs that there are more trade, and there's signs that there are more FDI that's coming in. Okay, so let's go for the antithesis. Okay, I'm gonna write, maybe let's write the antithesis in red, separate it. Okay, so the anti-AT that is not reversible. So again, what we are doing, we are looking at signs where there are increases in trade and signs where there are increases in FDI. Yeah. So one of them, they actually, I didn't paste it here, but it's the question we just did, which is the new Belt and Road Initiative. Right, which is to set up ports and infrastructure to link many countries' trade routes together. So when you do this, then you are helping to reduce transport costs, right? So using ports, infrastructure, the Chinese project would then help to reduce transport costs. And when you reduce transport costs, then it will actually encourage countries to specialize according to their comparative advantage. Yeah. So you have forces that work against it. You're trying the Chinese project is one where they're trying to lower transport costs and encourage more integration instead of less. So there are signs that it's not really reversing. Yeah, so that's one. The Belt and Road Initiative is also a form of FDI because they mentioned about building factories, and many of the Chinese companies are shifting their factories overseas. So this means that there was an increase in FDI that shows that this is not reversing. Yeah, so you can quote the Belt and Road Initiative as one. You can also quote this, right? You can look at table 1, where you look at many countries in that are very, very integrated in the global value chain. So for example, if you just look at us in Singapore, where 81% of foreign inputs exist in our in our exports, right? And you can see the number is also quite high for Malaysia and China, in above 60%, right? So what this means is that every $1 that I export, $1 in value that I export out, 60% of it doesn't belong to me, and it's somewhere in the global value chain. So that means that there is actually still a lot of exports and imports going around to hit this very, very high number. Yeah. So then you can say that you can also see that there's high participation in the global value chain by especially people like us, Singapore, Malaysia, and China. Yeah, which suggests that that these countries are receiving imports and exporting finished goods. Yeah, so you can also write that. Okay, so then we have these two ideas. So we have one case where there are lower transport costs. Let's change color. So green, so lower transport costs, more goods and services, shows that it's not reversing. Look at the Belt and Road project, such a big FDI endeavor. There's an increase in I, so look, it's not reversing. And lastly, look at how everybody is plugged into the global value chain, receiving imports and exporting. So therefore, this shows you it is not reversing. Yeah. Okay. So we have the black color arguments for why it's reversing and the red color arguments for why it's not reversing. Okay, then let's have a conclusion. Okay. So looking at the whole thing in looking at all the evidence, is there sufficient evidence that globalization is reversing? I actually don't think so, because that was only a temporary blip. Yeah. You can see in extract 7, if you read very closely in extract 7, it tells you that actually that period was only a period was kind of like an anomaly. Yeah. And now governments are still pursuing free trade deals, and the US car producers are actually planning new facilities in China. So you do see that globalization is kind of coming back. So that's why that's what I'm going to say there. Yeah. So you can say in conclusion, there is insufficient evidence that globalization is reversing. Okay, maybe you can give justification. Maybe the waves of protectionism that happened, that occurred, were only temporary reactions, or only temporary reactions. Maybe because countries were facing slower growth. Because countries were facing slower growth. That's why they enacted protectionism as a reaction, right? Countries were facing slower growth. Okay, and that once when growth recovered, starting to lag, and growth recovered. Many countries resume their trade and cross-border investment deals. Okay, right. Recovered. Many countries resumed many countries resumed their trade and cross-border investment deals. Yeah. And then you can say that moreover, economies have also specialized extensively and are part and integrated into the global value chain. Then this does not look this. It will be very difficult. It would be very difficult to see that reversing. Okay, so this question is a quite unique question. They are basically asking you to find reasons why there's an increase in X minus M, there's an increase in cross-border investments, and look at the other side and find reasons why there could be less X minus M and less cross-border investments, and then finally ask you to think about whether you think this is likely to continue in the future.